Alrighty, welcome to Spring Clean, Detox Your Home and Body. I'm Dr. Kyle Peacock, and today we are going to be talking about everything we can do to help get our bodies into a cleaner state. The reality is, and we're going to walk you through a lot of different common household toxins, a lot of things in our food, things that are even plaguing our mindsets. And we're going to talk about that because it is more prevalent today than it has ever been before. And so we're going to jump right into the material, but I really want to just open this up, first of all, to our patients. A lot of you guys have been asking me throughout your last few weeks, months, and even years for some patients, areas that they can improve on this. And this is just where I'm going to begin and end with this thought here. But this is where, when I attend church and I go listen to my pastor speak, and we're really just getting into the meat of what Jesus laid for us, and his message that he shared over 2,000 years ago is just the same impactful today as it was then. And the thing is it's not a one-time visit to church and now I'm fixed, I'm holy, I will never ever sin again. As my pastor says, we've all got issues, and we have to continually keep working on them. And so this is something that I want to change your mindset. And one of the things I stole from my pastor is this: is he says, I'm not an expert, but I'm a student of it, right? And so I think a lot of us need to take this idea that we're going to be experts in toxicity and detoxing and all these things, and I'm going to know the very, very best supplement and the very best food, etc. And I want you to just put that off to the side, and I want you to just say, you know what? I'm not an expert right now, but I am a student of it. And that's going to make the difference in me achieving my health goals this week, this month, this year. And so I want you also guys to get this concept of one and done is not how this works. Our body's systems are designed to every day work on detoxing your body, right? So we're going to get this kick started off here and make my picture smaller and jump into the material. And this is where the other issue is I want you guys getting the idea of this is detoxing. It really comes down to this. I mean, like, our body has areas and tools and resources to cleanse our own body, but we've got to start getting this mental image in your head where our nation, America, is really not leading the world when it comes to being the healthiest. In fact, when you rank a lot of the first world countries, we rank dead last. And this is where we need to get that first of all, we need to think about this, is know that, number one, we aren't the healthiest. And then number two, we have to exit the continuation. We have to exit this idea of, if I just do what my parents did and do what everyone else is doing, that I'll be okay, right? Because that's what's leading to one of the sickest stats in America, is that we're just not abandoning the railroad tracks that's heading to the path of destruction. So this is where I want to just invite you guys to almost like the Matrix, get unplugged and start living life a little differently. It might seem a little weird at the start. You might be buying different products. You might be trying different foods and taking different supplements. But I promise you, when you start getting your health goals, you're going to say it was all worth it, right? And it's also, I want to take the opportunity to say, I realize a lot of you have different health goals, and a lot of you have different ideas. Some of you guys just want to feel better. Some of you guys just want to be able to complete that marathon this year that was canceled last year. Some of you guys really just want to lose 20 pounds. And I just want to tell you all that you're in the right spot. And I also want to just reach out and say, hey, to our guests that have never been to our office or hearing me for the first time, you're also in the right spot. We are interested in helping you reach your health goals. And that's what today is about. So we're going to dive into this, because our purpose here at Peacock Family Chiropractic is not just about learning the information for yourself. We want you guys to rather go out and just lead your family and your community in health. When this whole pandemic started, boy, I tell you what, that first day, it was like Black Monday. Everything was shutting down here in Indiana, and who knew what was going to happen? I think some people literally thought the sky was falling, and it was certainly the unknown, the uncertainty was just paramount. And the thing is that everyone was told to go home and hide, and we're not going to go into politics of it or how well that was done. We're going to talk about this, is that I saw more people and my community express community more than I've ever seen than I in any other year, and it was just in the year 2020. I mean, we had neighbors that were doing projects and they needed a tool, and I tell you what, the just neighbor down the street was just more than willing to help share a tool or help lend a hand to help build a deck. Or I mean, I just saw all this area of community, and we live in a very diverse area, and it was just cool to see. It didn't matter what religion, didn't matter uh, um, what race, gender, background, belief system. It didn't matter. It was, wow, we're going through a rough time, and I'm going to share my love with my human being. And that's what I want you guys to get this image in your head, is saying, look, I can't fix the entire state of America. I can't, or the country of America, or my entire state of Indiana. But what I can change is I can change health for me. I can change health for my family, and I can start impacting my community, because we want you guys to see us as the standard for natural health care, where everyone is empowered to live to their full potential. I like to tell patients that they're back in the driver's seat of their own health because they're driving it, right? And so one thing I want you to commonly say throughout this whole presentation is, you know what? I'm not an expert, but I'm a student of it, because this is the reality. Is the average person, I read this, guys, I thought this was like, I was like, okay, this is over the top. This is a little exaggerated, but the average person can be exposed to 2,100,000 toxins daily, right? And this is where we're breaking this down here. I mean, this is crazy. Some of these toxins you can control, right? I mean, like, I can control what shampoos I buy. I can control what foods I buy. But I tell you what, I didn't get a chance to pick out the carpets that my builder used when they built our house. I didn't get a chance to pick out the cars driving down my street and the exhaust coming off there, or the electrical plant that's spewing fumes out there. There are things that we just cannot get away from. In fact, I didn't get a chance to decide whether in the 60s they used DDT to kill insects, and we're still finding that in our bodies today. But you'll see that there's 2,100,000 toxins daily. Our bodies are designed to detox. Don't freak out. This happens. It's around us, because this is where, once again, it's our food, it's in our water, the environment, cosmetics, cleaners and containers. We're going to walk through those and show you how to avoid the toxins, because it comes down to two categories, really. There's things that we're going to be forced to interact with on a daily basis. So once again, our idea is saying, you know what, I can't avoid some of these things, so I'm going to have to make sure that my body is equipped to detox. But there are other things that we have a choice on what we put on our bodies, or ingest, or hang around. And those are the things, that's the meat and the power behind this workshop, is to help you equip yourself on those topics. Because if we can avoid the fight altogether, then even better, right? And we're going to get the processes in your body functioning at a higher level to detox. So once again, just kind of think of it two different ways. Number one, there are toxins I can't avoid, and I'm not going to worry about that. I'm not going to stress about what Ford engine is driving down my road, because I can't change that. But what I am going to change is what foods I'm putting in my body, and what body care products I'm using. That's where I want you thinking, and that's where I'll put my energy and attention. All right. And the reality, and this is where, once again, I just want to get in here. The toxins is anything your body cannot use and is considered waste. So when we talk about toxins, or biotoxins, or toxicity, it will have a negative impact somewhere in the body, and our body needs to eliminate it. And so the big thing I want you to think of when you think of toxic damage is that your body can handle a certain level of threshold of toxins, and those can accumulate and accumulate over time. And some of them are more toxic than others, right? I mean, like, you guys have heard, you guys, I don't know if you guys had an elementary school like I did, where the thermometer broke, and like, we were evacuated from that whole entire wing, and guys came in with big like jumpsuits and yellow, just big ventilator hats to clean up a mercury spill, because we know mercury is a very potent neurotoxin, and we don't even want to get it near us, right? Whereas other things like, the smog, for example, or the city air, that's not going to kill you in one go. But man, living that every day and just breathing that in, it's going to accumulate in your body. So what I want you to think of is that dysfunction, right? That's what it is. It's creating dysfunction in the body. And if you allow dysfunction to remain long enough, dysfunction turns into disease, right? So this is where we want to obviously control our dysfunctions and we want to get into it. But the reality is, when should you catch a problem? And think about how does America take care of health in this country, right? Do we act all the time when we start seeing, oop, your A1C numbers are going up, oop, your blood pressure is going up, oop, like we're not liking this number here, or you know what, your weight's going a little bit higher. You guys get the drift. Do we act then, or do we wait for the, oh my goodness, you had a stroke and you had a heart attack, or oh my goodness, now you have full blown diabetes, or oh my goodness, you're fully labeled obese, and we need to now act and be reactive instead of proactive. So I want you to think about your own health and your health goals right now, because if you see that I'm not hitting that goal, I'm not making it, I'm in dysfunction. If you leave it alone and don't change anything, that dysfunction is only going to grow, and dysfunction turns into disease. So we want to change that right now. And this is where I also want you to think about this, is that we don't raise money for dysfunctions, we raise money for diseases, right? We walk for cancer, we walk for heart disease, we do these things, and it's like, you know what, how about we just walk for health? I mean, right? Like, why don't we just do these things because it's healthy for healthy's sake? And this is where getting into, like, once again, just think of it this way: toxins can damage organs, they can damage some of your enzymes and hormones, they can even damage your DNA. And this is where there are too many toxins to list, and nor are we going to try to list them all tonight. But this is where we want to eliminate the dysfunctions as much as possible, so that we can thereby eliminate the diseases. Now, this is another one that I see a lot of, and this is very important, because I mean, they're projecting 1 in 3 Americans will have cancer by the year 2050. And this is where, in studies past, we have found that 5 to 10% of cancers can be attributed to just genetics, as little as 5%, which leaves 95% of all cancer is attributed to lifestyle, environmental factors. And this is what is crucial. This is huge, because that means the person in the mirror has the best control over their health. And this is where once again, I've heard this a lot, and it's been used as an excuse, is I just have bad genes. My genes are bad, and it goes there. And I want you to know, though, that our genes do not change from our lifetime. That our genes don't all of a sudden become a different pair of genes. Those genes are ours. The expression of those genes can change, and some of you guys have heard this before, but the topic called epigenetics. But this is where lifestyle will change how your genes are read, whether they're read properly or improperly, whether good genes are turned on or turned off. And this is where we've got to exit the conventional, because this is where, when we see that we've got these 5%, as little as 5% of cancers are related to genes, that means 95% is in my control. And this is where I just to back up for a quick second. There are studies out there where they're showing, there's particularly Denmark, they have a lot of tracking and foster care, where they've just tracked, they've even taken identical twins that were put in different families, and because they were eating differently, they were living differently, you had the same genetic identical genes that were all of a sudden being expressed differently. One would be sick and one would be healthy, and it really depended. And it was very interesting. There was one study that shared, it was if the foster parent got a specific type of cancer, that foster child would be 500% more likely to get that cancer, because they know this stat that 95% of cancer is attributed to lifestyle, environmental factors. And once again, there's a lot to name there. But one thing that equips us is, some people look at this and run in terror, because they're just like, oh, it's everywhere, I'm going to hide. But then other people are like, you know what, I do control what I eat. I control what toxins are around me, and how I can detox. So once again, we have to exit the conventional methods of America and start choosing to live differently, right? And this is where, once again, exposing to the toxins, we're going to look at what we're exposed to commonly. Now, the number one thing that is hitting us right now, and it's partly just because we're in a pandemic where we're in a very, very, very hyper, what do I call it? sensitization culture. Like we're going to sanitization culture. We're going to sanitize everything. I mean, guys, I'm not going to get into politics of this. I'm not going to get into how good or bad we're doing at addressing SARS-CoV-2 and COVID-19 and the virus, or now the new variants. You know, there's hundreds of variants, by the way, not one variant. But the reality is this: is that I have seen some of the best hand washing I've ever seen before. So one good thing, hey, you guys are washing your hands now. I mean, were you guys not wondering, like when you went through the stores for the first few times and you saw that all the soap was gone? It's like, what were you guys doing before? I'm just curious. I just want to know, right? I'm just kind of surprised that went away. But the hand sanitizers, the disinfectants, the bleaches, the Clorox, the Lysols. I mean, if you guys look at particularly Lysol wipes, and I'm not just picking on that brand, but it's that kind of idea. It usually says something to the effect of use enough wipes, plural, to soak the area and allow sit to 4 minutes. And then usually it asks you to wipe it off with another towel or rag or disposable item. But what does everyone do? I mean, even my grocery store, they spray it, they wipe it, and even those wipes say you're supposed to remove it with water and wipe it off. And it's like, you know what? This is what I want you to think of. What gets on your skin gets inside your body, right? I mean, this is where I want you to share a quick story. There's a researcher at Virginia Tech, and she was working on mice, and unbeknownst to her, the laboratory changed their cleaning products and protocols. So when her mice would come in for their studies, they came in these little cages, and these cages were now being pre and post cleaned with these cleaners. What she noticed in her studies all of a sudden, that the control mice, they started getting sick all of a sudden, and once again, all their live vitals going off. And she actually thought she had switched the test group treatment. Like I didn't give them the control treatment. I accidentally gave them the test group. And because like, why else would they be getting sick and dying all of a sudden? And it turns out when she did all this tracing and figuring out what happened is that the laboratory was using an ammonia-based cleaner when they were using to transferring the mice. And that was even their control group, even though the mice were not getting any new treatments or anything like that, just that exposure of getting on their skin was enough to create a toxic environment dysfunction that led to disease in these mice, right? And that's where, once again, I just want you to think of next time you see that grocery cart, maybe take your own napkin or towel and wipe that off, or just better yet, bring one in from outside that has been out there for a while, so that you're not absorbing all that stuff. But once again, it's just like we want to look at things, and just to give you a couple items, like cleaners that we're looking for. One is called PERC, and that's perchloroethylene. We want to make sure we're not having any cleaners with those. And guys, I'm going to list some things off here, and I'm going to give you some tools on how to check your own cleaners in about a couple slides. So don't feverishly write this down or feel like you're way over your head. I promise I'm going to give you a website to help you. All right. Another one that you've probably heard of before is formaldehyde, chlorine, believe it or not, ammonia, and then of course there's many more. But these chemicals have been extremely damaging to your health. And this is where, once again, these things have been linked to cancer, hormone imbalance, liver damage, and more. And so this is the stuff that we want to really rein in. And so as a good alternative, when I'm looking at cleaners, we use a lot of either homemade or Norwex products, Norwex. And this is where, if you're interested, you can actually text our office that you're interested in healthy cleaners. Use that phrase, healthy cleaners. So my team can know how to help connect you to the right information. And if we need to host a cleaning night in our office, we will do that for you guys to make sure that you guys can equip yourself so you can start meeting your health goals. Another thing that watch out for disinfectants. This is just be very careful today. I would rather go to the bathroom and wash my own hands with hot soap and water, because look at the disinfectants. They have fragrance in there. These can hide chemicals. Fragrance, the industry is not required to label what's in their fragrance. So they can hide a lot of stuff from those ingredient labels there. The colors, and these once again have been linked to ADD and ADHD, and propylene glycol. That is your antifreeze, which is very toxic to the body. Once again, they're used as stabilizers or just to make it smell good or look good. But once again, I just want to think that this is where come on, what's wrong with soap and water, right? So I'm going to hold right here because this is where you can check out. This is ewg.org, Environmental Working Group. You can actually go there and check out your cleaners and see how they rate it. And they'll tell you why it's good or bad, or what the causes, what the yellow flags are. It's a very, very helpful website. I mean, I use this especially when the summer's coming around, when we look for sunscreens, right? I mean, they don't always have the same brand of sunscreen out there. And I want to make sure I find one that's healthy for me and my family. And so I will consistently use that to look up whatever brand I'm buying and see what they think. But once again, we've had patients do this many times before. I've had team actually bring in what they think is the most toxic cleaner, and bring in and really just educate why this is very toxic to us. Just because you're always learning, right? Once again, I'm not an expert, but I'm a student of it, right? And so you can look that up right there. The next one is cosmetics, and this one's huge. And guys, by the way, you are not exempt from this. All right, this is where the largest organ in your body is your skin, and boy, we have a lot of products for it. So cosmetics are one of the biggest culprits for toxins in our everyday life, and this is where I see a lot of heavy metal exposure, and I see a lot of hormone disruptors in this. And this is where they did a report. It's called the Heavy Metal Hazard, and they found they tested 49 different makeups items, including foundations, concealers, etc. And they found that their testing revealed serious heavy metal contamination in almost all products. 96% contain lead, 90% beryllium, 61% thallium, 51% cadmium, and 20% arsenic. And I'm just sitting here going like, well, I mean, I really know that arsenic is really bad, and I really know lead's bad. And I'm sitting here going like, beryllium, thallium, cadmium, I don't come across those on a daily basis. But this is where, once again, the one that's probably the most prominent is lead. 96% of them had lead in it. And this is where you've got to start ruling that out. So once again, we are exiting the conventional. You guys can scan this again and check out your cosmetics. Look it up, EWG. This is, once again, you can find the alternative products. Now, I will also share this. One of our patients in our office, and this is what my wife uses, is called Beauty Counter. Beauty Counter really has done a fantastic job. And I want to talk about this moment right here, because brand loyalty and brand trust is huge today. This is what's important, is that, you know, I know when I buy a certain brand, I know their standards, and there's some trust there. All right. Now, even though I don't get to meet the CEO, we are putting our dollar where we think is the healthiest in these items. So once again, am I willing to pay just a little bit extra to make sure I'm not putting lead on my face every day? Absolutely. And so this is where, once again, guys, I left you guys out here in cosmetics. You know, even the deodorants, right? I mean, what do you think those antiperspirants are? How are they blocking your sweat glands? It's almost always aluminum. Aluminum, heavy metal, very potent neurotoxin. Like, we do not want that in our body. Remember, what goes on your skin gets into your body, right? And so once again, you want to move those items. I'd rather sweat than plaguing myself with aluminum every day. So once again, look that up on EWG, so that way you can help yourselves and get to the root cause of the matter, and stop adding toxins to yourself needlessly daily. Right? This one right here, this is, once again, a fun word to say. I'm going to butcher it, of course, but this is where polytetrafluoroethylene. I think that's pretty good. All right. So I practiced that a lot. All right. Now this is where, once again, PTFEs, this is where, I mean, I witnessed this as I was going through undergrad pre-med, doctor training, chiropractic school, and even into practice. I witnessed the lobbyists slowing down the ban of Teflon. I mean, think of this as Teflon. It's not just in Teflon and nonstick cookware, though. I mean, they've put this in carpets. They've put this has actually been found in those the blue lining of the surgical masks that are supposed to be disposable, by the way. So dispose of them. Don't keep using them daily, every day. Now, this is where, once again, they found that it's really harmful when you heat it. All right. Now, I'm not here to say, like, is this going to cause immediate toxicity if you use a surgical mask? You know, look, you're not heating surgical masks as far as I'm aware. But the thing is, I'm going to choose my homemade cloth ones that I know what's in those. That's just me personally. But once again, it's just using what you know works. I don't want to put Teflon on my face, right? But this is where, once again, cookware is the biggest issue, because when you heat it, this thing will, it has been associated with cancer. It was set to be banned a long time ago, but it took years to get that out of the market. But I want you guys to think of your Teflon cookware. Even though it's banned and you can't buy it today, like you can't go in the grocery store and say, I want Teflon cookware and take it home. Great. We stopped the we stopped the production of it. How many of you guys still have Teflon in and under your cupboards? Like you could still cook with it. So once again, if you have that cookware, you just get rid of it. Get rid of it, get rid of it. And this is where you've got to make the switch and exit conventional and get into the stainless steel. Quality does matter here. You can also do ceramic, and then cast iron is also wonderful as well. Cast iron, if you tend to be on the high side of iron though, you need to avoid that. All right, so stainless steel should be your base. Some good ceramics. Be careful, be very careful with ceramic today. Ceramic is also being coated with a lot of items, and you need to be just cautious of what those new nonstick items are. We just haven't had enough time to really meet it out yet. So just like I said, just caution on that end, and use stainless steel. A good way, and this is I picked this up from another company, but this is where to taste what is cooking off of your pots and pans. Our patients have probably heard me share this at our grocery store tours, but this is where what you do is you boil like a cup or two of water, but the key is that you put a tablespoon of baking soda in it. And you can put 2 if you really want to, 1 to 2 tablespoons of baking soda in there. Now, the key thing is you want to mix it up thoroughly till it's in mixture. Taste the water before you boil. It's very important, because I want you to taste what the water with baking soda tastes like. And then what you do is you boil on high for 5 minutes until where you can see the bubbles going, right? For 5 minutes. Very important step. You must let it cool. Do not go and be like, the chiropractor told me to put boiling water in my mouth. No, let it cool. Take a spoon, blow on it, cool it off. The baking soda will bind to whatever's been cooking off your pots and pans. Basically, whatever's cooking into your food. And you are going to taste what is coming off of those pots and pans. If your pans are very clean and very high quality, you won't taste much of a difference. If they're like Teflon, I did this one time, I will never do it again. I did this with a Teflon pan that we had from when we first got married. And I had an immediate gagging, like vomiting, wanting to vomit sensation. My body immediately wanted to reject this. And I'm sitting here going like, oh my goodness, how many eggs did we cook on this thing? Like, I'm sitting here thinking like how bad was this overall? I can't change that though, right? We can't go in the time machine and change that. So if you have it, get rid of it. If you don't believe me, do the pot test, try it out, see what's cooking off your pots and see what happens there. All right. But once again, switch to stainless steel. You'll have a much better result there. Another thing is just these microplastics. And these are things, I mean, these are like parabens and phthalates. I mean, there's a lot of plastics out there. There's the, BPAs. I mean, a lot of these things right here, right? So this is where they found that, like, once again, even tap water. So in the US, 94.4% of all tap water samples contain plastic fibers. I mean, that's just in your tap water, right? And I mean, like, once again, Europe wasn't like too much better. It had 72.2%. So once again, it's like, it's in there, it's out there. It's just, once again, that's tap water. So we'll talk about water in a couple slides here. But once again, this is where, the Norwegian Institute of Public Health found 90% of those tested in 2016, 2017 had 8 different plastics in their urine. And once again, it's like odorless, they're colorless, they're chemicals, and those are phthalates, those are parabens. The kicker is that a lot of these plastics, particularly those two, parabens and phthalates, pH, by the way, is how that's spelled. Phthalates are endocrine disruptors, meaning they actually signal estrogen receptors in your body, and your body's having this, I can't believe it's not estrogen moment. And so what that means for you is not just because your numbers are altered. It's if you look at a lot of the hormone-based cancers, particularly in women, these are your ovarian cancers, your cervical cancers, your breast cancers. This is where you really want to hone in, because if I can eliminate any kind of risk in my likelihood of developing those cancers, that's where I want to start digging, is eliminating the daily exposure to these type of toxins, right? And we'll talk about the water in here a second, but this is where, once again, exit the conventional, get rid of this stuff. Avoid the plastic wrap and plastic containers. I know they're nice, they're so cheap and inexpensive. I get it. Just upgrade to Pyrex, get the glass ones. It's okay. Like, I mean, it's like, it's better. Trust me. Like, you can actually take that same container and put it in a toaster oven. You can put it in the real oven. It doesn't matter. Glass can handle it. Plastic cannot. So it's like, once again, get rid of that stuff. Frequently dusting and vacuuming. once again, just because it's coming off of us. And then this is another one that I'm going to start using, because I always learn when I do these things, is that I was just really happy that Target started using the degradable plastic type of bags. I mean, it's just better for the environment, but I really don't need to be taking those. So I'm just going to take my reusable bags and really make a focus on that. So that's one of my takeaways from this workshop, is I'm going to use more of the reusable grocery bags so I can control my plastics as well. Now, water, this is where, once again, water, like, this is where on an average, you expose yourself on average to 25 gallons of toxic contaminated water. This is where they say that your skin repels 75% of all chemicals and toxins. And I'm like if you guys are like me, I'm like, well, so okay, we repel 75%. Where's the other 25 going? It's in you. It's absorbed, right? What shows up on your skin, what gets on your skin, gets in your body. And so this is where you've got to start thinking of, like, we talked about that tap water and how much chemicals and plastics were in that. Really easy. This is where, once again, easy step to do is get a shower filter is the easiest. I mean, it looks just like this right here. I mean, it's just, you literally unscrew the shower head, you put on the filter, and then you put the shower head back on, and then voila, you now have a Brita filter on your shower water, right? I mean, you think about this, and once again, Fishers, Indiana. I mean, you gotta laugh about this for a second, because, like, a lot of people in Fishers are like, I don't know. I mean, they tilt their nose up at, like, that tap water. I have no good stuff. I would never drink your tap water, right? Like, instead they're like, I will take bottled water. I'll take my Norwegian bottled water, my Himalayan, like, up from the top of a mountain. Like, they had to go and hike and get this amazing water, right? And so that's the only kind of water they drink. But yet, what are they showering in? It's tap water. It's like, come on, really? Like, unless you're doing something differently, like, this is exactly, you're absorbing this. And this is what they're saying. They're saying that when you shower in this stuff, a 15-minute shower is equivalent to 8 glasses of water. And it's like, once again, I'm like, you turn your nose up to the tap water for drinking it, but, like, you go and shower in it. So once again, shower filters, whole house water filtration, so reverse osmosis systems. Me personally, I use a shower filter, and then we have in the kitchen, we have under the sink, we have a 5-gallon reverse osmosis tank that we got from Costco. Really good, really high quality. I haven't had any issues with it. You just change your filters every 6 to 12 months, depending on the filter, and you're getting quality water there. So once again, that's what I put in my Keurig for coffee in the morning. That's what I put. You can make ice cubes out of it. It's just really, really simple stuff here, but don't neglect it. All right. And this is where we're going to dive into this. This is going to be a fun one. Guys, don't come between me and my food, right? Like, I get a lot of that from patients. They're like, oh, don't take this away from me. I'm like, guys, I'm not trying to take anything away from you. I'm trying to help you get your health goals and help you achieve them and get you back to the driver's seat of health, right? So this is where toxins in food, we're going to start with the first one, MSG, monosodium glutamate. So what's the first thing you think of when you hear MSG? What foods? And, like, most people usually say, well, Chinese food or it's something of that, like, because it's supposed to enhance flavor, right? But this has been linked to an increased risk of nerve damage and heart issues. And, like, once again, it's just get it out. Right? Aspartame is the artificial sweetener. I literally had a person in my life that was like, she was just like, well, she heard me talk about aspartame, and it's been, shown to cause tumors in the brain with rats, and it's an older study, and they've since done numerous other studies to, like, conflict with that study. I would like to know the who did that study and whether they had any financial backing from these entities that make aspartame. But ironically, either way, there's no question that aspartame, sucralose, some of these artificial sweeteners, like, whether they cause cancer, like, okay, fine, they're potentially carcinogenic. Whether they cause cancer or not, I'm not hanging around and consuming them to find out. But what we do know is that they are linked to digestive issues, because they do destroy your natural gut flora. Those good probiotics, those good bacteria that are supposed to be in your gut. Some of these have been linked to headaches and more. But the reality is this: is saying, guys, if it's not found in nature, if it's not food by God, I don't want to put it in my body, right? I mean, the reality is, like, okay, we have made some amazing technology inventions, and I'm not like, saying let's go back to, doing nothing but only things found on earth. What I want you to think of when it comes to food is, because we have perverted it so much in the Western culture, in the Western America, the Westernized diet, we have got to get back to the basics, and that is simply this: it is food by God or food by man. If man made it, I don't want it. Right? I'm like, I've yet to see a Twinkie come from the ground or the tree. Right? Get it out of there. I don't like. I'm not eating it. Right? But did it come from God? Is it from this earth, or is it man made? All right. So the next one on here is you'll see is nitrates. Nitrates, you'll see this a lot in a lot of your meats, your deli meats and such, and bacon. I'm going to say this: bacon. I've seen some of the. This is what's been funny about our office has been in Fishers for 7 years, and I have seen the grocery stores around me evolve and change just even in 7 years. And I'm noticing that bacon, there's so many more options for bacon now. Like there's a lot of people are like on this nitrate bandwagon. They're like getting rid of nitrates. Just because bacon doesn't have nitrates in it doesn't mean bacon's healthy. So once again, I still want you doing like the turkey bacon. Pig meat's not still not healthy for you, right? But high nitrates are linked to cancers, and particularly University of Hawaii found that it was pancreatic cancer, which is a very gnarly beast. You do not like, once again, it's just not one that you want to be messing around with. So once again, just find your meats without the nitrates in it. The colorings, and once again, this is your blue like 1s, blue 5, red 5, yellow 5, etc. These are once again things that like like think about it, back to the food by God and food by man. If it was really good for you, why are you trying to color it to disguise it and to try to fool me? Right? And you'll see that colorings are used even in fish. So like you talk about salmon, and we'll talk about them later on, but they actually farm raised salmon, they actually color salmon pink to make it look like the real thing. And I'm like, once again, it seems a little deceptive that you're trying to fool me, that this farm raised stuff is as good as the wild caught. And once again, and then also the last one I want to talk about is genetically modified foods, GMOs. Once again, it's not the fact that we modified their genes that I have the personal issue with, even though that is in there. The big issue I have is, why did you modify it? And almost always it's so you could spray it with some type of herbicide, pesticide, etc. And like, once again, that's the stuff that I don't want on my food in the first place. So get rid of it. And so the best way to avoid this is eating quality, whole, organic foods, right? And this is another thing we got to talk about. We'll hit this on supplements as well. But our food today is not what it used to be. And that's because over time, our soil quality has decreased, leading to a decreased amount of nutrients in our food. And this has been studied over and over and over again. And it has made it increasingly more necessary to consume quality supplements to fill those nutrient gaps. And if you've been around my office long enough, the two biggest things I always recommend that people take in Indiana as supplements is a quality multi to replace this deficit, and vitamin D, right? So if you're not on that if you're not already taking a quality multi, and I emphasis on quality, and vitamin D, quality vitamin D, then that's an action step right there. Go ahead and write that down right now. But this is where you're starting to see practices like this, regenerative farming practices. You can look up Beyond Organic, they do it, but this is where, I mean, it's an orchestra. It's like a circus on how they efficiently move cattle around. And they have these birds that literally come and because once again, I won't go through all the nitty gritty of it. The birds eat things that happen to grow in the cow feces, and once again, the birds are depositing their stuff. And anyway, it's cycling these nutrients over and over again, so that when you're farming these crops, it's not stealing it all from the soil and never ever returning those nutrients. And so there are practices doing this today to help get this back in order. But once again, it like you go to look up these sites and you read interviews from these farmers, they're all their verbiage is the same. It's not for the kids today, it's for their kids and grandkids and great grandkids. They're seeing the long-term effects of this, not just the short term. All right. And once again, this is where I got to talk about toxic bioaccumulation. We talked about it briefly earlier, but this is where the classic story, and I got to share this with you, because people love seafood is what I found. Is like, people like try different seafood and different fish, and it is fun to go, especially when you go and travel and you get near the coastal regions and you try the different stuff that you've never had before. What is interesting though is like there are certain fish that are more toxic than others by nature. The smaller the fish in general, the golden rule of thumb is the less toxins that have accumulated in that. Whereas the bigger the fish, so let's talk about your swordfish, your tuna, they're massive fish. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of pounds big. And they have eaten so many of the little fish, which ate, those were eaten by a bigger fish, and you get the drill, like, once again, little fish, bigger fish, medium fish, bigger medium fish, large fish, and then finally the the big giant tuna that comes and eats those. You know, every time you go up with different species, you get this accumulation effect where they're accumulating more and more and more of these toxins to the point where, wow, these guys have a lot of toxins in their meat. And we're really talking about like the mercuries, the heavy metals here. And this is where you want to stay with more of your cold water, wild caught, smaller fish, such as salmon. Salmon's a great option there. And once again, as I mentioned before, be careful. It's got to be wild caught, not farm raised. I mean, I listened to an interview where they did they talked about how farm raised salmon, most of the time they still can't get the coloring right. They're trying to deceive you, which is already should raise a flag, by the way. Like you should be like, what? Why are you trying to color this? Why are you trying to act as if you're the real thing? I mean, these salmon are kept in very small, tight fishing fisheries, and they're like the big giant circles, and they're just swimming in circles. They're not really going anywhere fast. Lazy fish. I mean, and once again, we're going to talk about this, but they're all pooping all over each other. They have sea lice. They have all these parasites, and they're being fed not their natural what they would go and catch in the wild. And so their meat comes out, and it's no longer that bright, vibrant red, pink color. And so they have to actually fool you, and they have to give them a fish dye to change their meat color on the inside, which once again, I'm like, what did that do metabolically to the fish and the meat? I have no idea, but I don't want it. I would rather get the real thing. So once again, food by God versus salmon by man. You'll get the wild caught stuff. All right. And that once again ties us into, and this is what we talked about before, talked about our supplements. Why do we have to supplement? Because our food no longer contains the nutrients it does. So this is where, once again, some supplements might be toxic. In fact, the last time I looked up vitamin D toxicity, because I kept hearing all these, I mean, I knew I went through schooling, and you know not to take the entire bottle of vitamin D because it's fat soluble, meaning you can't eliminate it from the body. But I looked up, like, how many cases have there been vitamin D toxicity in the last 20 years? And there were actually just 6 cases, and all of them were linked to a supplement issue, meaning it was the quality of the supplement made. They manufactured it incorrectly. So once again, I'm like, well, great. There's only 6, so I think we're doing pretty good. So keep taking your vitamin D and test your numbers every once in a while. I saw another article last week that talked about osteoporosis not just being a calcium issue. We've been flooding this stuff with calcium for a long time in the supplement world, and it's not seeming to fix our osteoporosis problem. They're starting to look at vitamin D levels. That might be a better indicator on who's going to have bone thinning. So once again, if that's you or it runs in your family or you're concerned about that, get your vitamin D levels checked and see where you're at. But once again, I want to talk about supplement toxicity, because this is where I want you to write this down, is brand trust, brand loyalty. You need, when it comes to supplements, it matters. You need to find a brand you trust, someone that has done extra testing. One thing I would love to see in the supplement world is, and regulation is not the word I'm looking for, but just something that tells you, was this made in someone's parents' basement, or was this, made in a quality, like, pharmaceutical grade lab? I mean, like, I don't get the information when I go to a store, and you want to see what's in the supplements. Some may be loaded with artificial sweeteners. Be looking for that stuff. They might have flavors. They might have colorings. And this is once again, I'm like, why does it need to be? Why are you trying to fool me? The one that you can't see on the label is whether it has low bioavailability, meaning it won't absorb into your body anyway. So once again, cost matters. Not to pick on Walmart brand, but like, you're going to get what you pay for there, right? So don't go and buy the cheapest stuff. The cheapest supplement that works is the one you actually absorb, and we'll see a difference in testing. All right. So once again, now, having MaxLiving, I gotta say, we have very good stuff. I mean, beyond Garden of Life is another fantastic brand, very high standards. But you want to find these things that, once again, they look for quality. They look for pure supplementation. They look at how things are made and bioavailability, and they don't have these colors and additives, and they're closest to the natural form. All right. And this is why that matters, is because that's where your absorption comes in, and so once, like a quick story that I tried is, if you're used to the essential oil realm, the 2 big ones out there are doTERRA and Young Living, and they do a great job of it. And I'm sorry if you use something else, and I'm not here to only praise them, but they make good quality stuff. And it's expensive. It's more expensive than what you're going to see routinely on the shelves. And so there was the one time when I was, still in college, and I was like, I love peppermint. For those of you who know me, I go through peppermint oil like crazy. And I tell you what, like I was like, I'm gonna buy this cheaper brand. And the first time I used it and opened it, I dabbed it, and I use it for, like, instead of gum, I use it to freshen your breath. It tasted so bad. Like, it did not taste like peppermint. I'm like, I could take doTERRA, Young Living, any of that type of quality essential oil, and it's like, wow, that's peppermint. Like, like it's peppermint. Like, there's no difference, right? And then I tried this, and I'm like, what is that? And I looked, and it said 100% peppermint oil, and it's like, sure enough, you flip it around, like, they lied to me, because they start adding fillers. And, like, once again, the supplements are no different. So why was this one cheap? Like, why was that fake? I'm gonna call it fake peppermint oil cheap. Well, it's because they were using fillers. It wasn't the natural form, and I could tell the difference, right? The supplements, you don't always get to see, like, wow, I can tell my B12 levels are low today. Like, you just have to trust then that brand loyalty and that brand trust. So once again, this is where I know what we do with MaxLiving and all of our supplements. I mean, you can go research this if you want, but the reality is not too many people register their supplements at the FDA, or at least I don't feel like they do. NSF certified, GMP certified. And then when you make the commitment to, like, 100% GMO free and 100% gluten free, I mean, like, this is where people are starting to really look into it. So some of the people that have really high sensitive health issues, or immune systems that are very, very hypersensitive, like, they're looking for stuff like this. And this is where the quality matters. So once again, it's just getting back into, I'm not here to sell. Like, my purpose in life is not to sell supplements. All right. I want to be very clear here. I'm a chiropractor. I love treating patients, and I love helping them get their health goals. But the point is, supplements matter. And we're going to talk about two when it comes to detoxing your body. So the first one is one that some of our older patients may not even know about yet. And I say older patients, I'm talking about patients who've been around us for years, is this Max Cleanse. And this I want you to think of as more of a gentle, like, we're getting the body moving in the right direction. And it helps cleanse the body from those harmful toxins, supports a healthy liver, protects cells from damage. You're going to see the green tea extract and stuff like that in there, and then helps supplies essential vitamins for the overall wellness. All right. So once again, that's Max Cleanse. That may be an action step for some of you guys today and tonight, is to just start your body getting it moving in the right direction. Now, the Detox System, on the other hand, this is a 2-part kicker, and some of you guys have done this already. But this is where it's got the glutathione, and it really helps put your cells into a powerhouse of metabolism, and really, I mean, just cleaning out the internal functions of the cell. And then the second part is the binding agent, which is the activated charcoal. And that's once your cells have kicked the toxin out, you really want a binding agent to grab that in the blood, in the GI tract, and get it out of your body. Otherwise, what you're doing is you're just like a sponge. You're squeezing the sponge, and then as soon as you let go of the sponge, the water goes right back in the sponge. We don't want that. And once again, this detox system, it really helps. I mean, once again, it's not something that I would recommend doing every single day. I would recommend doing this quarterly or biannually, but this is where, once again, it's not. I personally would not do this. You could, but I would not do this on a every single week, 52 weeks out of the year basis. That's where you want to lean more to the Max Cleanse. So when you compare the two, this is where what's right for me, it just depends what your health goal is. If you feel like you've had a lot of these, toxic chemicals and junk in your life, and you're making huge changes and switches, then you know what? You might want to just go, let's go for the detox system right now. If you just said, you know what, I feel like I'm doing pretty good there, and I just want to help give my body a little boost and help support liver detoxing, things like this, then Max Cleanse is your answer. It just depends what you're looking for. And then there might be some of you guys that are like saying, you know what, I've done some of these type of detoxes and cleanses, I did not respond well. I had really bad bloating or GI issues afterwards. Then don't do the detox system. Start with Max Cleanse and do that. All right. Because once again, a whole point is there are toxins we cannot get away from. Right? We cannot get away from them. So we have to help support our body's natural detoxing. Okay. Now we're going to get to some of the fun stuff, and this, not that the other stuff wasn't fun, but this stuff is powerful for me because mindset is huge, particularly this last year. I mean, I have seen some of the most people ever get abandoned one of the most toxic mindset and toxic negativity sources there is, which is the news. I mean, like my pastor says all the time, check the news, don't watch the news, right? Because if you watch the news, they will worm your way in there, stinking thinking, right? Like they will change your output on life. If you are filling your ear and your brain with this, I mean, like, guys, if it was an election year, I mean, like the politics of it, the lines in the sand on what do you think about this virus, and are we doing the things right, and oh my gosh, like I just saw some of the worst examples of humanity come out in this last year. But I'm also going to tell you, I saw some of the best examples of humanity in this last year. But you got to look at this. Some of you guys need to write this down. You might be the person to say, I'm cutting the news out. I'm no longer watching that stuff. I'm no longer listening to that stuff. Trust me, people will tell you, like, you won't miss out. Like if there's something big that goes down, you will know about it. Trust me. And then you get tired of them talking about it as well. This doesn't just include news. Sometimes this is Facebook and social media and Twitter, or tweets and Twitter. And, yeah, you can tell what I do. I have zero interest in that stuff. Guys, I just really mean this stuff. I can't say it better than this quote right here. But this is where, once again, it's not about technology being the existential threat. It's technology's ability to bring out the worst in society, and the worst in society being the existential threat, right? And this is where, once again, I think the key thing is Tristan Harris, president co-founder of the Center for Humane Technology and former Google design ethicist. So once again, just said, but there's no better way to say it than that. But one of the most concentrated places of negativity is the news channels and social media. Cut it out. That might be an action step for you right now. If you feel like you're just always in a funk, and I'm going to share a quick story of one of my patients here. And I won't name her by name just out of respect, but this patient, she came in, she had all kinds of sciatic issues and bad issues going on. But every day she came in at the start, every time it was just like pulling teeth. She would just verbally assault me with complaints. And it got to be the point, and I hate to say this, but like your brain starts to be like, every time, she was coming in, I was like, oh geez, she's coming in, I'm gonna get vomited on with these negative complaints. And I don't know if it was just the coaching I had that week, or the Holy Spirit within me was just like saying, you know what, you got to address that head on. And I've never, to this day, in thousands and thousands of patients I've seen, I've never had this conversation quite like this. But I confronted her, and I said her name, and I said, I believe that one of the biggest interferences in your health and your health goals right now is your mindset. And until you start believing you can get better, you will never get better. So instead, I want you to come in. Your next step is, every time you come in this office, you are saying something positive about it, that you're getting better, and you're seeing yourself just functional, healing, and healthy. And I tell you what, like, and this is where it had nothing to do with me. I said this one thing and thinking like, I'm like, she's probably not going to be a patient anymore. And reality is, she changed. She flipped the script. Like, she started coming in and started sharing other things that was going on in life. I'm sitting there like, oh my gosh, I don't have to like take a shower of negativity off anyway. And now she went from one of my like least favorite patients to see on the schedule to now one of my absolute favorites, because she flipped the script, changed her mind, started seeing everything glass half full. And oh my goodness, not only did she get better, but now she's influencing not just her family's life, but her friends around her. And that should be a testimony, and something that empowers you, is saying, if your issue and your only issue is just your sciatica or headaches, then that is a very small issue. If you can get beyond that and learn how to get yourself healthier and better, and just see yourself there, that you'll actually start to, I'm going to use the word, infect others, right? Like, you will lead others in health. And that is our goal here, right? And then I want to hit so once again, this is one of the easiest steps here is detox your mind. And one of the easiest things to do is start your mind off right. It's not just eliminating news, it's replace it. Get yourself in some prayer, devotional time, meditation, whatever it is. But first thing in the morning, that should be your goal, is get into the Word of God, get into some quiet time or devotional, or read something inspirational that helps move you in the right direction. All right. I mean, the world should tremble because they're like, ah, man, this guy woke up again, or boy, she woke up again. Boy, some big things are going to happen today because that person woke up. Right. That's how you should see yourself. All right. And another thing, this is where I'm going to a lot of it's easy, it's very simple. Oxygen exercise. What's detoxing about that? It's real easy. Sweat. You got to sweat. I mean, there's no other way to say it than guess what? You're going to be sweating out toxins. I mean, it's designed to help you there. You're going to release toxins like BPA and PCBs that are going to be actually removed from your body and eliminated, and you get to, like, once again, watch them leave the body. But this is where, once again, how many people have exercised but they didn't get a good sweat going? So that's where, once again, I want you to be clear here. Oxygen and exercise is one of our essentials. Is not just doing some laps around the pool, not really getting your heart rate up or sweating much. You need to get to where you're huffing and puffing and sweating, because that is so beneficial. One of the things I tell my team is, every time we do a detox workshop or spring cleaning like this, is saying one of the two easiest things you can do to detox is sweat and breathe. Right? Don't forget about that one. The two things that you do when you exercise. I mean, think about it. When's the last time, even during this course of this whole thing, that you took a deep breath of air and let it all the way out? I mean, like, your lungs, we are by nature shallow breathers because we don't have any metabolic need there, right? I'm just sitting in a chair right now leading this workshop. It's not that taxing. So we have to remind ourselves to deep breath in, breath out. We're getting rid of that stale air. That's what I think of. I think of that home that you went into, that is that nursing home that just never has changed that air in decades. That's what I think of the rest of my lungs. That's the image I get. So once again, change that out. It helps so much. Easy way to detox. And you're going to do that just by exercising, getting the heart rate up. You'll be deep breathing and you'll be sweating. All right. And this is probably the most important thing, because this is, as we talked about before, toxins. They're one of the three causes of spinal misalignment, subluxation, right? So when I say subluxation, that's the spine moving out of alignment, stressing those nerves. I mean, we think a lot about, I mean, with sports, especially being in sports, very active with concussion protocol and stuff, everyone thinks about the physical trauma. Like that one makes sense. Like, oh yeah, that makes sense. They definitely move the bone out of alignment there. But the other two, I think, are more common: the toxic effect, and so is the emotional effect, the thoughts, right? I mean, like, it makes sense. Like, if we're stressed, your shoulders tend to go up, your head goes forward, and we go back into like a fetal-like position. Like, that's stress, that's muscles tightening. That is going to affect your posture and your nerve function. But toxicity, and this is where particularly a lot of those heavy metals and plastics, they are having a direct involvement with nerve function. So once again, I need to back up for a second, because this is where health is not just how you feel. I want you feeling great, don't get me wrong, but health is about function and healing, right? My dad served as a health teacher for our Mount Vernon High School for years, and this was always question number one on his final. It might be number two, but either way, it was define health. And if you just underline the first four letters of health, he gave you credit for the question, because there's a fantastic definition. When you're asked how are you sick, well, people describe numbers, they'll describe symptoms. And I feel like people oftentimes know, like, oh, I know when I'm sick, for sure. I know when I'm sick. But how do you know you're healthy? And that's where the definition gets really gray. And this is where the best way I can help you here is, I have no tool that can guarantee perfection. In fact, I'm going to tell you it's biblically not possible, right? I mean, we will all die one day. But the point is, God put us on this earth for good works he prepared for us in advance for us to do. I mean, that is the scripture, is that there are things that God made me for, to go out and lead and do and accomplish before my time ends here. So one of my purposes in life that I'm well aware of is, how do I help my community achieve a better state of health so they can do that good work that God prepared in advance for them to do, right? I mean, that gives me goosebumps. Once again, that's not your purpose, that's mine. And it's just, how do I help you guys achieve that goal? And so when it comes to your life, it's saying, where in your life are you not functioning as well? All right. And we're going to help walk you through this, because this is where I want you to start thinking health differently. Start thinking of it as what controls all function of the body. And once again, even my mom's fourth grade elementary class got this right. Like your brain, your spinal cord, and those nerves controls every single function, the nervous system. So every system in the body is directly controlled by the brain and spinal cord. And so this is where, I mean, you really want to dive in here, because you think about it, like we're not, I mean, we have all these different doctors for all these different organ systems, and I'm not saying cancel them or leave them, but I'm saying you're skipping a step. One of the most classic examples is I see a lot of little kids in my office that have these recurring ear infections. And those ear infections, like they go to the pediatrician, they get antibiotics, and I'll be darned, the antibiotics work. They kill the ear infection. That's great. And then as soon as they stop taking the antibiotic, the ear infection comes back. And then you got to ask yourself, you're like, okay, well, what's the cause of the problem? Because if it's ear infection comes back as soon as I stop giving antibiotics, doc, are you telling me that the cause of my child's ear infections is a deficiency of antibiotics? And like, right, no, that's not it at all. It's just we're not treating the cause, we're only treating the symptom. So what I find is whether it's these headaches or with the same example, that little kid that has the ear infection, it's almost always the atlas, the C1 that has moved out of alignment. It's now impinging the ear canal that's supposed to drain the ear canal. It's no longer doing that. It's no longer functioning properly. And I take my little finger and I wiggle it over, and it's one of the most gentlest, easiest adjustments there is. And within days, the ear infection's gone. The kid didn't have to get tubes, didn't have to get another set of tubes, and the parents now know exactly what was causing the recurring ear infections. Are you treating cause, or are you treating symptoms? That's one of the best things I can tell you. And this is where, thank God, God gave us warning signs. Just like your car, when your check engine light comes on, to go and check the electrical system of the car. It'll tell you right where the problem is. And so this is where, if you're a guest tonight, like, once again, my biggest invitation for you is get plugged in to our office. Now, this is where I usually start this way with all of our patients. Like, a lot of people that we're involved with, they want to get healthier, they want to meet their health goals. I always start people with saying, look, we start with exams first to see, how are you doing? How can we help you? How can we help you achieve those health goals? And if you need x-rays to see how your spine's looking and what's going on with your nervous system, then we're going to take that. But every single patient in our office started with an exam first. I want to see what's going on. I don't treat on the first visit, because I want to see if I'm the best person to help you achieve those health goals. And so the classic person will come in, they'll have a posture check, we'll do range of motion checks. We actually do a muscle scan to determine, is there any stress on the muscles right outside the spine that's affecting those nerves coming out? And then, more importantly, is there anything in your health history or your symptomatology that relates to, wow, that's the same nerve that you're having? So that high blood pressure, or that acid reflux right there, that's the same nerve going to that region of the body. Is it coincidence that you just happen to have subluxation, that misalignment in the spine affecting those nerves, controlling that very organ system, or those two unrelated entities? And once again, the cool miracle of chiropractic, if you want to call it a miracle, is all I do is I move the bones and get pressure and stress off of those nerves by moving the spine. It usually makes a little popping sound, and it's the simplest, easiest procedure, all right, for a chiropractor to do, and it has one of the most profound effects on the body. And once again, it's not my hands healing, it's that the miracle is the miracle of life. I mean, my wife is almost 22 weeks pregnant right now, and this is where, you talk about the miracle of life. There's another human being growing inside of her. I mean, that's astronomical. Like, all the different organ systems, and it's a totally unique and separate entity right there in her womb. And when the baby's born, there you come in here like, wow, miracle of life. Look at look at that. Like, oh my goodness, what a miracle. Well, the miracle doesn't leave the baby, right? Like, the miracle stays with you, right? The miracle of life still happens. When you cut your finger heals, right? So what I want to change your way of thinking about it, exiting conventional, is start thinking of, why am I having these headaches every week? You think about headaches, people just take Excedrin or Advil or ibuprofen. I'm not dogging that option, other than to say, if that's your only solution, guys, you're in for failure, because you're only treating symptoms and not getting to the cause. So I joke around sometimes about this, but I really mean this. I mean, like, guys, keep your pediatrician, keep your doctors, keep your specialists, all that stuff. I'm just saying, who's got your back, quite literally. Who's got your back? Like, who's checking the most important system of your body? And is that like the most prominent issue you have? Because if I clear that issue and that stress and that dysfunction from your spine, and now you are functioning and healing at a higher level, what's going to happen to those warning signs? What's going to happen to that check engine light? Can it even turn off just by taking care of these issues first? So the first action step I create for people is saying, look, if you're a guest or you've never had been checked, or even if, for my patients on here and you guys have been feverishly taking notes and like wanting to change things in your life, maybe it's time for you to take that action step and saying, you know what, I need to influence those around me. I classically get this. I mean, almost every single week in my office, one of our patients thinks of their brother, their sister, their mom, their dad, their grandparents, their nieces, their kids. And they're just thinking like, oh my goodness, I found the answer to my issue. I wonder if they have the same thing. I wonder if they have that same issue I did, or a completely different one, but they are always wanting to make sure that their loved ones and their friends had the best step. So if that's your one of your first steps, or you're thinking of someone right now, I want you to write their name down and, like, text them, call them, reach out, get them plugged into our office. Like, one of the best and like highest forms of praise I can get is when someone refers someone to our office and they trust us enough. I mean, like, it just to me, that's brand loyalty, that's brand trust, is that they trust us to take care of their family. And that's where I start there first, because some of you guys that are guests tonight, um, you're taking good notes here, but this is where it does take commitment to health. Is not a one event thing. It is a daily commitment. And, like, let us help you there, right? Let us help be in your corner to help get you moving in the right direction, because it does take time. So once again, I want to make sure that you guys write an action step down right now. Some of you guys, I've never had my spine checked. I've never seen how well my spine actually looks. Just quick story. We got to actually take care of several members from Heartland, my church, where we're donating care for their staff, and I just want to take care of them. It's one of the easiest ways I can give back to those who've given so much to me, and who helped me get fed spiritually. I just take care of them, and some of the most appreciative people. I mean, like, I'm not doing this for anything for me other than I just generally want to take care of them. And I'm not kidding. Every single person who stepped in and had their exam and had their x-rays were so appreciative, and I can't give them praise enough for that. But the thing is, and the reason I share this is because some of them were already, like, thinking about this stuff. They were already knowing that they've got issues, and we're connecting for the first time. Some of them are seeing that this is causing that problem you're having. And so I'm so excited to see where their journey is going to be. But that's a great action step that they're taking right now this week. And that can be for you right now as well. Some of you guys need to just start taking a trash bag and start throwing stuff away. That could be a good action step, is saying, first of all, I'm going to take a big giant garbage bag and I'm going to start throwing stuff in there and replacing it. Some of you guys scan that ewg.org app. And if you need to write that down, ewg.org, you're going to go through and start really cleaning out cosmetics. Some of you guys need to text our office right now. That text to say, hey, I want to make sure that we get some information, on cosmetics or cleaners, healthy cleaners, and our office can help you get there. But once again, I want you to write down action steps right now. Eliminate news media, eliminate getting on Facebook first thing in the morning, starting your day off with devotionals, right? Like, write an action step down and just simply do it. All right. And the biggest thing of achieving health goals is this: if you stay connected and stay accountable to people, let people know you're doing it, let people know, let us help you. My team is there to help you achieve your health goal. And that's our purpose, is to make sure that you reach those. All right. So stay connected, get plugged in with us. And once again, it's just, that's the whole purpose for us being here. And once again, I want you to leave you with this idea and this thought, is this: that, you know what, I'm not an expert of it, but I am a student of it. And that's where every day, every week, every month, every year, that you are moving the mountain of health in a positive direction, as opposed to doing what most America is doing, is falling one step back. All right. And I don't want you to be on the beach at 90 years old, alone because you achieved health. I want you being there with your family, your friends, and just look at the world of people that you changed. And their legacy of health is simply because you drew a line here and said, I will live no differently. I will always move towards this direction of health and allow my friends, my family, my loved ones to follow with me. All right. So once again, you've got a lot to do tonight. Once again, this is your spring cleaning. Detox your home, detox your body. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to call us or text us. Get plugged in and let's help your health goals. Have a blessed one, and remember who you are.